The way banks operate is so interesting to me because it's genuinely such a genius business model. And if you are in the finance industry, or if you understand money and study it, financial literacy, if you read those books, if you see on TikTok, I've seen on TikTok a bunch of times, you understand how banks operate. But I just want to go into a little bit more, it's very general for people who don't know, but it's like banks pool everybody's money, right? Because that's how they work. Banks hold your money and they pool everybody's money, and they take 90%. I think the rule is 90-10. They take 90% of everyone's money that they gathered, and then they invest it on their own, and then they get a capital, or like they gain money from their money that they pulled from everybody, and then they pay out these little menial amounts to everybody on savings accounts and bullshit like that. And the whole reason I'm explaining this is in the idea of self-improvement, of course, but it's investing is not as hard as people make it out to be, and they take it so scary, and they're like, oh, but in the stock market there's chance of recession, and there's lots of volatility in the crypto market, and this and that. It's like, I completely understand that, and you need to build yourself up to that risk tolerance and this and that. But the whole idea is like, even if you're not investing your money and you're putting your money away in the banks, they're investing it. So it's like, how unsafe is it for you to just do it on your own and just make way better of a return? And I'm talking about this, right, because I know somebody who has a savings account with an interest rate of 0.0025. Like, do you understand how nuts that is? You can have like $10,000-$20,000 in there, and you'll only make like $1, $2. Do you understand how shit that is? If you put that in the S&P 500, which everybody, such a common, like if you're in the finance industry, you understand how commonly it's talked about that it gives you 10% return. And besides like in the years of recession and stuff, it's like, if you having your whole investment strategy not be implemented because of the chance of a recession, which happens once in 20 years or whatever, once in years, it's such a stupid idea, because you live longer than 20 years, right? Essentially, hopefully, right? So if you live for 60 years and you technically go through 3 recessions, those 57 other years you can still have been investing and making money on your money. And the whole point is, the first way to make money is trading your time for it. Then you trade money for money, and then you trade other people's time for money, and then you trade other people's time and money for money, right? And that's how you make the biggest return. And so people that only trade time for their money and wonder why they don't have a lot of it, it's like, well, you don't know how to move to the next level. You're too scared to trade your money for money. And it's so important just to learn, because like that savings account giving you 0.0025, if you just put in the S&P and were willing to tolerate the volatility or whatever, if the days went down, up, you would have made 10%. So if you put 10,000 in, you would have made 1,000, right? 10%. And if you put that same 10,000 in your savings account, that gives you, it'll give you like, I think like a quarter or something, like some bullshit. Like, it's crazy. Like, you just got a quarter instead of $1,000, all because you were too scared to do it yourself. And it's so important for people just to learn how simple of a, like, when you hear investors do all this like bullshit, they're taking it to the highest level. They're trying to invest and get the highest return. You don't need the highest return. You just need a return higher than 1%, because that's what your savings account is giving you. And you're being so scared of the volatility. It's like, start small, see that it's not that bad. It goes up and down. Be in the market for a long while, and then you'll be like, oh, this is not that bad. And the whole idea of banks is so crazy to me, because I know how to invest. So if I pool everybody's money that I know and I invest on their behalf, and I give them a little 1% fee for letting me borrow, and it'd be all personal loans, right? Because it's like family and friends or whatever. So then I essentially pay no interest on it, and I give them 1% like as a thank you, right? And they would be so happy, because they'd be like, oh, 1% of money. But it's like, I just made like 10, 15, 20, 30% because of crypto or whatever the case may be, right? Point is, I could do that, but I'm not, right? It's too family involved. I don't like mixing family and business and money or whatever, right? But that's what banks do. But they do it on a public, big scale, right? They set up a bank, everybody trusts them because, they're FDIC insured, which is bullshit, but, right? They go, yeah, come to us, we'll hold your money, we'll protect it, rather than you putting it under your bed or some bullshit. We'll give you credit cards, debit cards, this and that, right? And the whole idea is like, you put your money in there, and then you're like, some people are like, no, my money's in my account because I can see it on my phone, my app, or whatever. That's all bullshit. It's IOUs. Banks are IOUs, which just essentially means is it's just a digital screen where it's just showing you the amount of money that you have and put in, but they don't actually have the money locked in for you in some like secret vault under your name. It's just digital numbers. Like, I don't know how they essentially do it, but it's all tech, right? So if they tell you that you have $1,000, you don't actually have 1,000. Like, you have the $1,000 in your account, but the cash you're holding that's equivalent to that $1,000 is not actually held there for you. They hold, like I said, they operate on 90%. They take 90% of the money they pull, they invest it so they can make crazy amounts of return, and then the 10% is like held in a vault or something. So then if you ever were to withdraw huge amounts, they would have to go into the vault and take out the cash physically. That's what they hold, that 10%. But the 90% they probably put investments. Like, they literally have investment firms within banks. So they invest in the stock market, crypto market. They use your money. They loan it out to other people for mortgages and car loans, and they give like 8-9% interest rates. So think about it. The money that you're giving them, they're giving it to other people to collect interest on it. That's how banks run and operate. You have to think, how are banks making money if they're just holding my money? They're not just holding it, they're using it, they're capitalizing on it, because you won't. If you could have did the same thing the banks did at a much smaller scale, but it would have been hard for you to find someone to give a car loan to or whatever the case may be. And they have all these like contracts and stuff in place, which makes it much more safe for them to do than you. But I'm just giving an example. But the whole way banks operate, you need to understand that's how money flows for banks. And if they can do it, you can do it. And that's why it's so important for you to learn and take the time and practice of investment.